Okay, let's dive into something a little, maybe a bit rebellious today.
Oh, rebellious how?
Well, we always hear, push harder, be more disciplined, grind it out, that whole thing.
Right, the standard personal growth mantra.
Exactly. But what if that tendency we have to conserve energy, the thing we sometimes feel guilty about and call laziness, what if that could actually be a strength?
Ooh, okay. Like a secret weapon for personal development.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because all that rise and grind stuff, it can be really exhausting, can it? Especially if that's just not your natural setting.
Totally. And then you feel bad because you can't keep up with these super ambitious plans. You try, you fizzle out.
And then the guilt hits. You're now alone, if that sounds familiar.
Well, it's kind of funny when you think about it, this idea that just throwing more effort at something is always the answer. What if flipping it actually works better? Achieving real progress by working with that natural desire for ease instead of fighting it tooth and nail.
It really makes you wonder why the traditional advice just falls flat for so many people.
Well, you get super motivated, right? You set these massive goals, like you're going to transform overnight.
Yeah, been there.
And then, well, real life happens. Motivation takes a nosedive. You missed one workout, one page.
And suddenly you're beating yourself up. That cycle of high hopes, the slump, and then just feeling rubbish about it. So how do we get smarter about this?
I think the smart way is to stop relying solely on willpower.
Yeah.
Let's face it, it's kind of flaky, isn't it? A limited resource.
Definitely runs out by lunchtime for me sometimes.
Right. So instead, it's about designing systems. Ridiculously simple systems. Things that are so easy, you almost can't not do them, even when you feel totally wiped out.
So we're not lowering our standards, just being strategic with our energy.
Exactly. Laser focused on where you spend the energy you do have, rather than trying to be a superhero all the time.
Okay, that leads perfectly into the first habit you mentioned, the 2-minute micro habit. Seriously, 2 minutes.
Yep, 2 minutes. The idea is brilliantly simple. Take any goal, no matter how huge it feels in your head,
Okay.
and shrink it down to an action that takes literally 2 minutes or less.
Like what? Give me an example.
So, want to read more? Your habit is read 1 page. That's it. Want to get more active? 2 minutes of stretching, or just walking around the room while the kettle boils.
It almost feels wrong, like cheating the system.
Doesn't it? But that's the beauty. It's so unintimidating.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. An hour at the gym feels like climbing Everest sometimes, but 2 minutes, I could probably manage that. What's the psychology here? Is it actually doing anything?
Think of it as minimum viable effort. It's tiny, yes, but you still get a small win. And crucially, it starts building those neural pathways. Your brain barely puts up a fight for just 2 minutes. And over time, those little nudges, done consistently, they pave the way. It's like starting a tiny snowball rolling. It gathers momentum almost by itself.
Okay, so for someone listening, maybe they want to meditate or learn Spanish or whatever, how do they figure out their 2-minute version?
Just ask. What's the absolute smallest first step? For meditation, maybe it really is just sitting and focusing on your breath for 120 seconds. For Spanish, open the app, do one tiny exercise.
Right.
The key is consistency over duration. Just show up for those 2 minutes. Don't worry about doing more initially.
You mentioned a guy, Mark. He started with 2 minutes of push-ups.
Yeah, exactly. He wanted to get fitter, but the whole workout thing felt massive. So just 2 minutes of push-ups every day.
And what happened?
Because it was so small, he actually stuck with it. And the interesting part, over a few months, those 2 minutes just kind of grew naturally into a proper 20-minute routine. He built the foundation, the habit became normal. Those first 2 minutes were the unlock.
Wow. Okay, the power of small is starting to sink in. Habit number 2 then. Environment design over willpower. This one really speaks to me. Setting things up so success is easier. Yes, please.
Exactly. We underestimate how much our surroundings shape what we do. Way more than we think.
So instead of fighting temptation,
just remove it or make it harder to get to. It's about making the good choices, the easy choices, the default.
the path of least resistance thing you mentioned. Our brains are lazy.
Basically, yeah. Our brains want the easiest option. So if you intentionally set up your environment so the good habit is the easiest thing to do and the bad habit takes more effort, you're hacking your own laziness.
Okay, give us some practical examples, stuff we can actually do today.
Sure. Healthier eating, fruit bowl on the counter, visible. Junk food, hide it away in a high cupboard or the back of the fridge.
Makes sense.
Trying to use your phone less. Grayscale mode makes it instantly less appealing. Or just leave it in another room when you need to focus. Want to exercise more? Sleep in your workout gear.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Or put your running shoes right by the bed. First thing you see. It removes a tiny friction point.
And you mentioned automation as like the ultimate version of this.
Yeah, automation is fantastic for this. Set up an automatic transfer to your savings account each month. Boom, saving happens without you thinking.
Nice.
Use website blockers during work hours. No willpower needed to avoid Twitter. It's just blocked. Pre-schedule healthy grocery deliveries. It takes away that what's for dinner? Decision fatigue, where you might just order pizza.
It's like outsourcing your discipline. That's brilliant. Okay, habit 3. Identity-based change. This sounds a bit deeper. Changing how we see ourselves.
Exactly right. It's shifting from focusing only on the outcome, I want to lose 10 pounds, to focusing on the type of person you're becoming.
So instead of, I want to lose weight,
You start thinking, I am becoming a healthy person, or
Yeah.
am a healthy person. That shift, even just internally, it makes a surprisingly big difference.
why? Why does framing it that way help, especially if you're, trying to conserve energy?
Because our brains like consistency. We want our actions to align with our beliefs about ourselves. If you genuinely start to see yourself as, say, someone who reads daily, then picking up a book feels more natural, less forced.
Right. It's just what that kind of person does.
Precisely. It requires less mental energy. It feels authentic, not like you're constantly fighting your own nature. For anyone who finds constant effort draining, this alignment is gold. It feels less like a battle.
Okay, but how do you actually start seeing yourself differently? You can't just snap your fingers and change your self-image, can you?
No, definitely not. It's gradual. You start small, make little identity statements. Like, instead of, I should exercise, maybe try telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who moves their body regularly.
Okay.
And then this is key. You back it up with tiny, consistent actions. Remember the 2-minute rule. Each tiny action acts like a little vote, reinforcing that new identity.
So the actions build the belief.
Exactly. You mentioned Sarah, who beat procrastination this way.
Yeah, tell us about that again.
So Sarah always put things off. She started telling herself, very consciously, I am a person who finishes what they start. And then she focused on finishing tiny things immediately, putting one dish straight in the dishwasher, replying to one email quickly.
Small stuff.
Tiny stuff.
Yeah.
But each time she did it, it reinforced that finisher identity. And gradually, without this huge willpower struggle, she just found herself procrastinating less on the bigger things too.
That's fascinating. Building yourself up one tiny action at a time. Okay, habit 4. This one feels almost revolutionary in the self-help world. Enjoyment-based consistency, you mean? We're allowed to have fun.
Shocking, I know. Who knew? But seriously, sustainable growth, especially if you lean towards conserving energy, is way more likely if the process itself doesn't feel like, well, torture.
Yeah, that makes total sense. If something feels like a chore, you're just not going to stick with it long term, are you? Once that initial motivation wears off.
Exactly. Your brain knows.
So what's happening upstairs when we actually enjoy something?
Well, pleasurable activities trigger dopamine release. That's your brain's reward system lighting up. So things you enjoy require less activation energy, less mental effort to get started and keep going.
Okay.
By making our growth habits genuinely more fun, we're essentially hacking that reward system.
Yeah.
Making consistency feel easier, more natural.
Right. So how do we actually do that? Inject fun into things like exercise or learning something dry.
Just got to ask yourself, how could this be more enjoyable? Maybe exercising isn't the gym. Maybe it's dancing in your living room or hiking with a friend or playing a sport you actually like.
Okay.
Learning something new. Can you gamify it? Find engaging documentaries instead of textbooks, a study with someone else, even just creating a nice environment, music, comfy chair, nice cup of tea can make a difference.
Well, little things. You mentioned someone, Michael, making coding fun.
Yeah.
How?
Michael needed to learn coding for work, found the usual courses incredibly boring. He stumbled on this interactive coding game that taught the concepts through puzzles and challenges. Because he actually enjoyed playing the game, he spent way more time practicing, looked forward to it even, learned much faster than forcing himself through the boring stuff.
Love it. Work smarter, have more fun. Okay, final one. Habit 5. Minimalist progress tracking. Oh, this sounds right up my alley. Simple is good.
Definitely. Seeing progress is motivating. We know that. But if your tracking system itself is complicated, it just becomes another task you avoid.
Right, another thing to feel guilty about not doing.
Exactly. So the key is finding a tracking method that is stupidly simple. Absolute minimum effort required.
Creating that visual feedback loop you talked about, but without adding hassle. How does seeing the progress help, even if it's tiny?
Seeing that tangible proof, like a check mark or a paperclip moving jars, it gives you that little dopamine hit again.
Yeah.
Reinforces the behavior, makes you want to keep the streak going.
Yeah.
But the tracking itself has to be almost invisible effort-wise.
So what are some examples of these super lazy tracking methods?
Think frictionless, wall calendar. Just put a big X on the days you do your habit. Takes 1 second.
Okay.
Got a jar, drop a paperclip in it each time. Visual, simple. Some apps are literally just one tap to log it. The goal is less than 5 seconds to track.
Totally doable. You mentioned Alex using a calendar for writing.
Yeah, Alex wanted to write more, but tracking word counts felt overwhelming. So he just put an X on his calendar for any day he wrote even one sentence.
Just one sentence counted.
Yep. Over months, he built up this amazing visual chain of X's. That visual proof of consistency was way more motivating for him than the numbers ever were. He ended up writing more consistently without the pressure.
Amazing how simple works. Okay, so we have these 5 habits. How do they work together? Do they amplify each other?
Oh, absolutely. That's where the real magic is, I think. When you start weaving them together, they support each other, create this kind of effortless momentum.
Give us an example. Say someone wants to get fitter, finally stick to some exercise. How could they combine these?
Okay, so they could start with, say, a 2-minute walk around the block each morning. That's the micro habit.
Right.
They could leave their walking shoes right by the door. Environment design. They could start thinking, I'm someone who takes care of my body. Identity shift.
Okay.
Maybe they listen to their absolute favorite podcast only during that walk. Enjoyment.
Nice brag.
Totally. And then they just put a simple check mark on a calendar after each walk. Minimalist tracking. See how it all layers together.
Yeah, it creates this whole supportive system, makes it easier to start, keep going, and feel good about it. And you said these tiny actions often just grow on their own.
Very often, yeah. That 2-minute walk might naturally stretch to 10 because you're enjoying the podcast or the fresh air. That 1 page of reading turns into 3 because the story grabs you. It happens organically, no forcing required.
Okay, but I can hear some listeners thinking, this sounds almost too easy. Like, shouldn't real change involve struggle and, serious effort?
That skepticism is totally fair. We're conditioned to think growth, hard work. But sustainable change often comes from working with our nature, not constantly fighting it. These habits are designed to be easy to start and keep up, precisely because that's what makes them stick long term. It's about finding the path of least resistance towards your goal, not away from it.
Okay. What about bad days? We all have them. You miss your 2-minute walk. How do you handle that without just giving up?
The crucial rule for lazy growers, never miss twice.
Never miss twice.
A one missed day. It happens. Life gets in the way, you're tired, whatever. Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
The key is getting back on track the very next day. 2 missed days starts to feel like a new pattern forming. So just focus on returning, no judgment.
I like that. Gentle but firm. And what if someone does want to push a bit more over time, even using this easy approach?
Often, like we said, it expands naturally. But if you want to be more deliberate, think tiny increments. Add 1 minute to your 2-minute habit. Read 1 extra page, that 1% better idea. It compounds massively over time, but each step still feels small and manageable.
Okay, this has been super helpful and honestly, kind of a relief. So quick recap of the 5 habits for everyone.
You got it. Number 1.
Yeah.
Those tiny 2-minute micro habits. 2. Environment design, make good choices easy. 3. Identity-based change, become the person. 4. Enjoyment, make it fun. And 5. Minimalist tracking, simple visual proof.
And the big idea is these work with us, right? With our natural inclination to not waste energy. It's about making positive changes feel, well, almost easy. Finding that path of least resistance to who you want to become.
Precisely. It's not about lowering your sights. It's about being really smart and strategic with your energy so you actually reach your goals sustainably.
So here's a challenge for you listening. Super low pressure. Pick just one of these 5 habits, whichever one sounds least annoying, maybe even slightly interesting.
Just one.
And try it for just 7 days. Start ridiculously small. Make it so easy it feels silly. Try to make it a tiny bit enjoyable if you can. And find the absolute laziest way to see your progress. A tick on a notepad, anything.
Yeah, just see what happens. Embrace that strategic laziness for a week.
Let go of the struggle for a bit. And hey, if this kind of gentle, realistic approach resonates, definitely subscribe because we'll have more strategies like this.
Yeah, and head to the comments. Let us know which habit you're going to try. Got any genius lazy implementation ideas? Share them.
Because remember, being strategic with your energy, that's not lazy. That's smart. Until next time.